Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie if you're new here, and on my channel we talk about books. So let's get right into it. This is going to be my August wrap-up and my September TBR. I can't believe that I'm already filming this video because I can't believe it's already almost September. I read 15 books in the month of August. I'm just gonna go in order of the first book I read to the last book I read. And then once I'm done with that, we will do the TBR jar. And then we'll also talk about the failed results of the last TBR jar. So let's just get into it. The very first book that I finished in August was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This book was fantastic. I gave it like a 4.5. It was almost 5 stars, not quite, but really close. And I really loved this book. It follows our main character, Cassie, and she is a natural profiler, and so she kind of gets inducted into the FBI to solve cold cases, and it really escalates from there. But I think that this series was super fun, and this book was really good. The second book that I read this month was The Akata Witch, and I gave this book a 3.5 stars. I think that the audiobook for me did it a disservice just because I was not super blown away by the audiobook. However, I think that the story was cool, the magic was cool, but I couldn't quite get into it because of the audiobook. The third book that I read in August was Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I gave this book a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one as well. This one follows the same main character, Cassie, and at this point she's kind of inducted into the FBI. She's close with the other 4 people in this Naturals group, and this follows the cast of characters as they're following a new kind of a copycat killer crime. And so it's very interesting. I actually really enjoyed this one. I loved the ending. I felt like super happy about it. Plus the love triangle ends in this book, which I don't like love triangles, so I'm happy that that was over with pretty quickly in the series. The next book that I read in August was Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare, and I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It follows our main character Reggie and our other main character Ben Magnus, and Reggie is applying for a job she thinks is to play card games, basically. She's actually applying to be a witch's familiar, and so this follows her not believing in magic and kind of being inducted into the magical world, and we get to see a lot of different things that I felt were pretty unique to this specific book in the magic style. So I really enjoyed this one and I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I read was All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I think this was my favorite book in the series. I absolutely sped through this book. I read it so quickly. This follows our same set of characters as they go to Vegas to kind of hunt down a killer with a specific MO. So I thought that this one was really interesting. It was fun to see them out of their like typical house that they live in, and it was very entertaining. So I gave this book 4 stars, and I definitely recommend the series once again. The next book that I read was The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. This is the last Percy Jackson book, and I actually listened to the audiobook of this, but I do have a physical copy, so I figured I'd show it. This was a reread for me. It was the first time I've reread the series. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I think that the series as a whole was a little bit less exciting to me this time around than it was the last time, and I don't know if that's just because I'm older and this is definitely a YA series or if my tastes are changing, but it definitely was more of a 4 star than a 5 star like it was the first time around. And then the next book that I read was Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the final book in the series for The Naturals, and this book was kind of unhinged. I loved it. I thought that it was great, but it was kind of unhinged. I read it super fast because I was completely blown away by what was happening, and it was a trip, honestly. There was so much going on with this book, but I did really love the series. Overall, I feel like it was like probably a favorite series of mine. I gave this book 4 stars as well. The next book that I finished was The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. This is the follow-up book to the X-Hex, and I really enjoyed the X-Hex. However, I felt like The Kiss Curse wasn't quite as good. Sometimes with romance books, I feel like the follow-up book is great, and sometimes I feel like it's just kind of a letdown, and I just didn't love the main characters of this one nearly as much. I think by the end I had developed a care for them, but in the beginning I just wasn't that interested, so that's why the rating is a 3.5. However, I still thought that it was entertaining, and if you're interested in reading witchy books, I would recommend you pick it up. And the next book that I read was 12 by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It's actually the novella that's in the back of the book. This is actually Bad Blood. This is 12. And I gave it 3.5 stars just because it was really short and it's just a novella. But it follows our cast of characters 5 years, 8 years into the I don't know. I think it's 5 years into the future. And our main character, who was 17 in the series, is 23 now. And it was very interesting to me. The thing that stood out the most was that she was 23 and I'm 23, and her and her boyfriend started dating when they were 17, and me and my boyfriend started dating when I was 17. So I could really relate to it on that level, which I thought was fun. But I enjoyed the story. It was really fast. Obviously, it's an 128-page novella, so it of course has to be quick. But I thought that it was fun, and it was a good addition to the series to see like where they were at 5-ish years later. And then the next book that I finished was Unwinding Anxiety by Judson Brewer. I actually have been reading this book for months. It's taken me forever to get through it, but I'm glad that I read it. It was definitely eye-opening for some like habit loops regarding anxiety, and if you have anxiety and are looking for something like this, I would recommend you pick it up. Of course, all self-help books I would say take with a grain of salt and just apply what works for you. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. But I did really enjoy it. I'm also sorry if the camera's shaking. Benji's touching my tripod. But yeah, I did enjoy this. I did not give it a rating. I think I'm to the point where I don't really give self-help books ratings anymore, just because I don't really see a good way to rate them. So I've stopped rating most self-help books. I won't say all of them, but this one just no rating. It was good. I enjoyed it. If this is something you're looking for, go for it. But it was kind of hard for me to get through. It just took a lot of time because it's very scientific. So, and then the next book that I finished in August was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I love The Hunger Games. I gave it 4 stars. I don't think that it's a 5-star series, but I really, really enjoy this series a lot. The audiobooks are amazing, and it's just so much fun to go back into the world. It's such a dark world, but for some reason it's just extremely entertaining to me, and I love doing a reread. I pretty much do a yearly reread of The Hunger Games, and it just makes me happy. I'm actually still in the middle of a reread, and it makes me very, very excited. The next book that I finished was Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This book I gave a 3.5, maybe a 3.25. I'm not 100% sure on my rating, but this book was intense. It was very hard to read, very disturbing. Check the trigger warnings if you're interested in reading it. I think that it was good. I never would have picked it up had I not been reading it for my in real life book club, but I did enjoy it, but I wouldn't say it was my cup of tea, and I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. So definitely check the trigger warnings and see if it's something that you can handle, because I definitely think that it's very sensitive, so just be careful going into it. And then the next book that I read was also an audiobook that I have a physical copy of, Catching Fire. I've had this book since I was like in middle school, so that's why there's like stains. I don't know what happened to the dust jacket. I really need to just purchase a different, like a nicer copy of these, but Catching Fire, I gave this book 4 stars as well. I do think that the first book is better in the series, but I like the development of our characters, and I like the inclusion of the other victors being included into the book. I thought that that was fun. I love getting to see like Finnick and Joanna. They're fun, beady, and it's just a very entertaining reread for me. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't read Hunger Games in a while, or if you haven't read it ever, I would recommend picking up the series because it is fun. I won't say it's 5 stars. It's not like perfect. It's definitely old-timey dystopian, but it just like is very nostalgic to me towards like my middle school years. So I definitely recommend picking it up if that's something you're interested in. The next book that I picked up was Not the Witch You Wed by April Asher, and I gave this book a 4 stars. I really loved it. It was a lot of fun. It follows our main character, Violet, and she is a witch but doesn't have any magic, and she's also a triplet, and she's a part of like the most magical clan of witches, and she is supposed to become like the all-time witch but because she doesn't have any magic, she passes it along to her sister, and a lot of things come up with that. And because she is the firstborn of the triplets, she has to find a mate. And so now she's got this like fake dating situation going on with our male main character, Lincoln Thorne, and he is a wolf shifter, and I just thought that it was a lot of fun. It's very lighthearted, but it was really entertaining, and I'm excited to pick up the second book. The third book comes out next year, so I'm planning on reading that as well, so I'm kind of holding off to maybe read the second book in like October and then read the new one when it comes out later this year. But I really enjoyed it. And then the last book that I actually finished about 10 minutes ago, was What the Hex, and that's by Jessica Clare as well. It's the follow-up to Go Hex Yourself, and I gave this book a 3.25 star. I really enjoyed it. I gave the first book 5 stars, this one got a 3.25, and I think it was just because, like I said earlier, sometimes the second book in series just don't live up to the hype that the first book had. And while I did enjoy it, it just wasn't quite as good. It follows our main character, Penny and Willem, and Willem is forbidden to take a familiar, but he does it anyways, and Penny is in the Society of Familiars and kind of breaks away to become his familiar. And they're breaking a lot of rules to be doing this, and slowly things start to progress, and I'm not really gonna tell you what happens, but it was really enjoyable, and I did like it. I think a 3.25 stars is perfectly fitting for it. It's just like an average book, but it was overall very entertaining. So those are the 15 books that I read in August. I am going to pick 4 books for my TBR jar. I will admit, I didn't read a single book from last month's TBR jar pick. To be fair, I am in the middle of one of them. I'm in the middle of The Only One Left. I just have not had time to finish it yet because I have read so many books this month. But I started to read The Crying Lot of 49 and I could not get past the second page, so I put it here. This is my get rid of pile. So yeah, I'm getting rid of this one. I don't have a great excuse as to why I didn't read Beach Read, other than I just was in a mystery thriller mood and my mood reading took a toll apparently. I decided to read the entire Natural series instead of my TBR, so that's what happened. But that being said, let's just pick up the 4 books that I'm going to read out of the TBR jar and cross our fingers that I actually read them this month. The shortest book on your TBR. Okay. I don't know what that is. I'm not gonna count my classics in this because I honestly am just not in a classics mood and I know I won't read them. Okay, I think this is a good contender. We're just gonna go with this. I'm not 100% sure if this is actually the shortest book on my TBR, but it is one of the shortest books on my TBR, and it's also one that I was really hoping to get to this month, so it kind of works out perfectly. This book is 278 pages, and it's The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. So I'm gonna hopefully be picking this up. It actually works out great because I've been wanting to read kind of like a fantasy type book, and I hear that that's what this is, so I'm gonna pick this up. A book with a number in the title. Okay. I think I have 2 options for this. So I can read One by One by Ruth Ware or The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So let me look. I think I'm gonna go with One by One by Ruth Ware for the book with a number in the title. I have had this book on my TBR for years, so I should probably get to this one. A book with a purple cover. Wow, these are like hard ones. Does this count? There's purple at the bottom. What about this? Does this count? I think I'm gonna make Mr. Magic count because I am planning on hopefully reading this with Sam Donovan. We've talked about doing a buddy read for this and we want to do it in September, so I'm gonna put this on my TBR and count this little bit of purple as my purple. No. No. Read your most recent purchase. Okay, what was my most recent purchase? My most recent purchase was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, so I will be reading this as well. So this is the TBR. Hopefully I actually get to some of these books, or all of these books. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys have had a good reading month for August. And I want to know down below what books you're planning on reading in September. Let me know, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!